Hola, hola. ¿Me escucháis bien con el micro? Pues tenemos esta charla de este cine extremo francés y belga, que también tenemos aquí a Fabrice de Wealth, y vamos a hablar un poco de toda esta generación que creó un nuevo estilo que cambió para siempre el cine. Hi guys. In the beginning, Christoph Gans was going to be here, but it cannot be. But I have a question. When you saw in 2001 Pack the Loops, do you think that was a change in the French cinema, horror and fantastic, like a new kind of cinema can be done in France?
No, it was definitely the biggest movie at the time, French movie ever made. It definitely embraced element of makeup, genre, creature that was
Monsters.
Not usually like existing in French cinema. But it was such a period movie as well, and kind of landed in another place. It was not all. I mean, I guess thinking about it, I don't see it as an horror movie when I think about the Pack des Loups. But it is, like the opening scene, the victim, there is a Jaws approach to it as well. So I guess, yeah, it was genre without, it was so many genre different. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a one shot, it didn't open to a full line of copycat or movies in the same way.
They always had the temptation to bring back that kind of cinema in France. And I think the French extremity really opened, because it's the way you call it, but arrived with Alex and High Tension. It was really the first film who bring horror to very influenced by the American cinema, horror American cinema from the 90s. In France. That's the first succeed attempt in France, I think.
The second question is, and I think it's important, many of you, before making films, came from a film critic profession. And I want to know how did it influence you to jump to cinema? The fact that you were, or cinephiles, or film critic like Alexander and Julien.
So I started writing articles for Mad Movies at the end of the 90s, and but at the same time, I was projectionist. I was working in a theater.
Yes.
I was a projectionist with not
Very
with
cool.
DCP. At this time, it was with and I remember one day the boss of Mad Movies came to me and said, "Oh, Alex, I just watched a movie. It was an undercover screening of a movie. It's called High Tension, and it's so what the fuck? We never seen that in France before." And I was projectionist too at the same time. So in my theater, we screening High Tension. So I discovered High Tension. I was, of course, a fan of horror movies since I was young. But like my boss told to me, I've never seen that before. And I was totally blasted by the movie. It was like an epiphany. It was like, wow. So it's possible in France to do a movie like this? Well, Alex, where you are before this time? We were waiting for you since a long time ago. And I remember each night, I watched the movie alone in theater when the clients when the cinema were closed, and High Tension really has touched me very, very personally, and show me the way. So you can do it, and so in parallel I was writing scripts. And try to write a movie, but it was very difficult. But I think that High Tension was not really a big success in French theaters, but in the international, it was a real success. It was wow, who is this guy? And so Alex has shown us the way, to practice.
Alexander, listening to this, do you feel like you are the father of these children, because the way you are the father?
I didn't leave it this way. First, I'm not alone. I did High Tensions with Greg Levasseur, was my writing partner and producing partner, and we were feeling that something different should happen. We wanted to try to pay tribute to a lot of movies that were so important to us. Movies from the 70s, movies from the early 80s that we couldn't find anymore in a movie theater. As Fabrice said, there were some attempts to do horror movies, but they were all made in a kind of not serious way. They were not taking it seriously. I'm not talking about, in France, there is a full history of genre movies from way before, from the 70s and 80s, and with real horror filmmaker that was kind of like small event here and there. But in the early 2000s, there were like this idea of, they were called B movies, the B movies, and they were really, not great, but also not made with respect to, I remember to the genre. So we wanted to do something very different. They were like direction and kind of opening, like the Gaspard, had made Carnet and Seul contre tous, that was not an horror movie for say, but almost one, and something that was very shocking and kind of going back to another type of cinema.
If I
just want to add something that I don't think that we are responsible for any of those great movies that follow. The only thing that we might have done is that we, not by accident, but in a way, we show to the French industry that there were another way to finance movies, and that meant primetime TV, so that meant no under 12, no violence, no... everything that we're doing was not even possible, and we couldn't find the money to do it. So High Tension was financed in a different way, was financed through foreign sale, and that was new. That was something that was not usual for a small French movie. Of course, when Christophe did Brotherhood of the Wolf, the foreign sale were huge, but it was a gigantic movie. Mm-hmm. For small, under 2-3 million movies, to have a big foreign sale, that was not usual. And because of High Tension and how High Tension was sold around the world, I think a lot of those small budget became possible. The talent were here, the ideas were here, the desire for the filmmaker were here. It was just, the industry was not ready.
And Fabrice, this question is for you. Here in Sitges, late in the late 80s, Mind Bites Dog wins the best movie of the festival. And I want to know, how was the state of the horror and genre and fantastic and independent cinema in Belgium in the 80s and the 90s?
Well, I suppose the same in France. We were looking for the same kind of. I was young, I was very. I have a lot of appetite of different films, mm-hmm. horror mostly, but in all different genres. I'm talking for me, Mm-hmm. But I was very, very impressed by what achieved some young American director during the 80s. I think about Sam Raimi and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But mostly, I think for myself, the click, still now, my main obsession is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Mm-hmm. For me, changed my life. That's a movie who completely changed everything in my appetite of cinema, making films. That's why in my cinema is very visceral. It's because of that, It's because I need to smell, I need to feel something very, very, very special. But for respond to your question, I think it was the same everywhere. There was at the time an appetite, an ouverture, an opening to that kind of film. It became mainstream those days, very mainstream. You see, for example, The Substance in main competition in Cannes. So it changed a lot, And I think we are the generation between those two worlds, We're just a bridge. We build a bridge, and it's great.
Ok, pues si ya tenéis preguntas, aprovechar que tenemos aquí un Dream Team de directores franceses y belgas. Aquí.
Bueno, utilitzo la traducció.
La traducimos,
si pot ser.
Sí.
A mi m'agradaria saber si va haver-hi algun moment que van notar tots aquests directors de pel·lícules franceses que estava muntant un moviment que arribaria a ser conegut a tot el món. Merci.
Il veut savoir s'il y a quelques moments que vous avez pressenti ou vous avez croyez que vous étiez partie d'un mouvement qui était renommé tout autour du monde.
No.
It's interesting because sometimes mostly journalists put filmmaker in some group, and it happened that we kind of knew each other. I mean, I didn't know you back then, but we shared the same editor, so we had like a direct connection and relationship. But I think where the journalists are right when they talk about the splat pack or when they talk about the French extreme or French terror, there is something that is that we maybe share, like the desire of, going back to, Toby Hooper, to go back to Wes Craven from the early days, go back to like a really much more visceral, as you said, cinema that was kind of not shy to, be very graphic on screen. Because I feel that we all came from the same love of movies that we found in video club, that we couldn't really necessarily see on the big screen, because our generation was a generation that was also kind of being a teenager in the 90s, early 90s, and I was kind of a generation that had to go with horror taking a turn of being self-referential, or like Scream, like some kind of scary, but not, kind of making a joke about it. It was the big, I Know What You Did Last Summer and many movies like that. So it was kind of going back to something more Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
En fait, il y a ce qui a été vu par les journalistes comme une vague de cinéma horrifique français. Nous, de l'intérieur, on ne l'a pas du tout vécu comme ça. C'est-à-dire que nous, on était, à chaque fois qu'il y a eu un film qui nous parlait, donc comme Haute Tension ou comme Calvaire, à chaque fois, ça nous donnait plein d'espoir. On se disait, ça va lancer l'industrie, ça va la motiver à produire ce genre de film. Et en fait, c'était vraiment une vue de l'étranger d'imaginer que c'était un mouvement, parce que de l'intérieur, c'était à chaque fois des événements qui étaient très isolés. Je te laisse.
Diu que, de fet, cada vegada que els periodistes parlaven d'un moviment francès, això des de França no es veia així. Que cada cop que sortia una pel·lícula que els interpel·lava, com ara Alta Tensió o Calvari, ells es preguntaven a si mateixos a veure si allò seria el detonant definitiu que faria que el sector, la indústria francesa, s'animés a fer pel·lícules d'aquest tipus. perquè des de l'interior tots aquests casos es veien molt aïllats, tot i que des de l'exterior es veien com un moviment conjunt.
Et à l'époque, on était même plutôt très jaloux de ce que nous on voyait en Espagne et notamment la reconnaissance. En fait, on avait l'impression que ce cinéma qu'on aimait était beaucoup plus reconnu en Espagne, où par exemple Juan Antonio Bayona avec l'Orphelinat était nominé au Goya. On avait l'impression que l'Espagne avait un temps d'avance sur la France.
De fet, a l'època ells estaven molt i molt gelosos del que veien que passava a Espanya, perquè creien que hi havia un renaixement realment a Espanya en relació al gènere, per exemple, amb les pel·lícules de Bayona, amb el premi que li van atorgar, tot plegat era molt diferent del que ells estaven vivint a França.
Et alors que quand on demandait à nos amis espagnols, on leur disait mais vraiment, mais c'est incroyable chez vous, vous pouvez vraiment faire des films de genre, des films fantastiques qui sont donc reconnus et du grand public et de la profession. Eux nous disaient exactement l'inverse, nous disaient mais pas du tout, en Espagne c'est très difficile, vous avez tellement de chance d'être en France, vous avez cette vague du cinéma horrifique qui est très vivace.
So, guys, do you like the name of New French Extremity or not?
In a way, because we come from the same
Different places.
From the same background, we have the same love for a kind of cinema and for cinema. I mean, but we evolve in a very, very different way. All of us, we share a common space, and that thing about French extremity, so on again, it's. Why not? I'm okay with that, but we made different films, and some stay in the genre. For myself, I explore a lot of different genres. So but I accept it. I love it. At least there is something. It's French extremity.
We are the one to be more used to deal with tight budgets. An advice, be brave, be courageous. No, it's always hard to give advices, but the things have changed since when we started, like almost 20 years ago, and now we feel like it's in a kind of it's much more easy to show your work and to shoot movies when you are a beginner. No money to do a first movie must be turned into a strength, and the best advice for a young filmmaker now would be just to do things, like to write, to shoot, to take pictures, to be creative, and to be able to show what you have to tell to other people, to an audience, and be able to show to producers, to investors, what you really have, in your guts. So my only advice would be like to do things, because with all the new tools we all have now, it's kind of do clean images and to do clean shots and to do a clean short for example. But what is the most important is to be able to tell a story, and so don't put all your energy into special effects or because now that's tools that everyone can manipulate and have access to. So just focus on the story, on the emotion, and I think this is what is part of being a filmmaker is to give emotion to an audience.
I would say that, unfortunately, building suspense, building tension require a lot of shots, require a lot of time. So it is expensive because it takes days, but it's also the key. Special effects are also expensive, so it's always a pile of sand of what you have to make the movie, and you have to choose. You have to choose where your priority, if like it's that one scene that you want to really increase the suspense and you want to take the time to do it, and then you have to really do it because that will be that one scene that will matter and that one graphic effect. But the last thing I would say was that maybe I feel that to choose the right scare when you're on a tight budget is also going back to deeper inside you to try to find what's really scary to you as an audience member and not necessarily go into a reference to another movie. Like the postmodern approach of horror filmmaking, I don't think is a really good way of getting something that really work as a young filmmaker when you have a tight budget. It's going back to something that connects you to everyone in that universal fear, nightmare that you can have.
So, teníem aquí una pregunta més, aquí.
Bonjour. Moi, j'aimerais savoir, par rapport à... j'ai l'impression qu'il y a une tendance de plus en plus de films sociaux aujourd'hui, et comment est-ce que ça affecte, si vous êtes avec moi dans cette démarche, comment ça affecte au cinéma de genre en France?
Tout dépend ce que tu mets derrière le mot cinéma social. Encore une fois, c'est difficile de ranger les films, comme le disait Fabrice tout à l'heure, les films de genre, c'est très large. Et en plus, donc là, leur donner une dimension sociale, en fait, les films sont souvent en fait, livrés à une libre interprétation du public. Effectivement, on a des tentatives en France qui sont avec des trames réalistes, on va dire. Je pense notamment au film de Juste Philippot, comme La Nuée ou comme Acide. Mais en fait, il n'y a pas que ça. C'est-à-dire que des films qui sont très remarqués sur les dernières années, par exemple Titane de Julia Ducournau ou The Substance de Coralie Farja ou son précédent film Revenge, à chaque fois, j'ai l'impression, aborde des sujets de manière différente, avec des sensibilités différentes. Effectivement, la chose qu'on peut remarquer, c'est qu'il y a peut-être moins de films qui ont une approche frontale du genre, comme on a pu nous en faire à nos débuts, où on avait vraiment envie d'exprimer quelque chose d'assez brutal, de ruer un peu dans les brancards, avec une envie aussi un petit peu de se démarquer de tout ce qui avait été fait avant en France, en fait, de crier notre amour pour ce cinéma-là, qui a peut-être un petit peu disparu. Mais voilà, tout ça est cyclique, donc on va voir ce que nous amène le prochain cycle, quoi.
Non mais voilà, il y a quelque chose qui n'était pas assez... En général, quand on fait ces histoires-là, on fait des histoires sur nous, quoi, sur pas nous, mais sur les gens aussi. Je veux dire, il y a quand même une différence, je pense, parce que... Ah oui.
Yes, because it's a long answer.
Non, et je voulais finir sur en fait, comment dire, il n'y a pas une opposition entre une sorte de cinéma d'exploitation d'horreur un peu, comment dire, cheap ou pas, ou du moins qui n'est pas basé sur une réalité, et un autre cinéma. J'ai l'impression que en France, un peu par définition, on vient toujours au cinéma par l'angle d'être auteur, de raconter une histoire. Il y a une tradition quand même qui est là, donc comment dire, le fond social est jamais loin quand on fait ce type de cinéma.
Mais non, ce que je veux dire, c'est que parfois c'était plus ou moins évident. C'est-à-dire que quand c'est ancré dans le scénario, quand c'est vraiment le fond du scénario, c'est un peu plus un peu plus facile de voir la dimension sociale, tandis qu'il y a des films qui sont beaucoup plus axés série B ou quatrième dimension, comme les films de Mathieu Thury par exemple, qui du coup où la dimension sociale n'est pas forcément évidente, mais en creusant on peut y voir une critique de la société, de plein d'autres choses.
For me, it's always about church, you know, you have an opposition between social cinema and horror cinema. But I think that great horror cinema or great horror films are mostly highly social and politics. All the films we love so much are very, very social. The context is very well built, and it's always politics. And that's why, personally, I'm fed up a little bit with horror cinema those days, because I can find no more, it's not old, but no more, that's ingredient of social context and politic statement that it used to have in cinema all over the world by wave, you know. Look at the Korean, the Spanish cinema. So it's very important, and for me, and I'm always a little bit concerned about the opposition of church. We are author, we make social, we make comedy. I think cinema is global. It's this great power to be global. But when you tell a story, you need to build a very strong context to bring the people. Look, The Exorcist, the context is so incredible. And it brings you to a high level. You can experiment the real horror. Apocalypse Now, those kind of film, you know. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and so on.
Tenemos tiempo para una pregunta más, si alguien se anima. The last question.
Hi. First of all, thank you for creating such masterpieces, all from the early, 20s, 2000s and 2010, like a hot tension and an interior and everything. And also I wanted to know, how do you feel, because we've had Murderer this year here, because it was based on a true story. We're having so many true crimes and so many documentaries and so many films and TV shows based on true facts that are every time more scarier. And we see the news that we get every day, for example, with the case of the Giselle Prichot in France, which is horrible. How do you face the thing that the fact that maybe there's no horror left for people to feel on cinema, because we are feeling it in the real life right now and every day, and on the news and on our phones and everywhere.
Yeah, but that's not the same horror. But you know, theater was created to provoke a catharsis about violence. That's the purpose of any art form expression. So here we are not, of course you're right, the world is terrible today, but it's been terrible all along. It's been terrible all the time.
But now I think we are more aware of the terrible things that are going on. So that this makes us maybe less...
And what do you... Yeah, but what do you mean? You mean we have to stop making films and go back home?
Sorry, I meant where can we find horror right now? In other places, or where other places can we find horror? Then we have, for example, An Interior or The Soul Eater. I thought could be a true story, perfectly. And how can we go to a movie and to feel fear and horror and see a horror movie that gets us the same way that got us before, because now we get every day bombarded with horror stories. I don't know if I'm making myself clear with this.
Non, but
Sorry.
Je ne pense pas qu'elle n'est pas le cinéma dans la responsabilité. but I feel that there is definitely somehow, and definitely maybe not, but there is maybe a connection between the fact that horror movies are so popular right now in a world where all the really bad stuff is so present every day and being broadcast. I mean, yes, Fabrice is right. It's been violent all the way and ever, but maybe, yes, people were not aware, but back then, even centuries ago, people were in the need of sharing stories, like the fairy tale, the dark fairy tale, but also the Gilles de Rais, who was maybe one of the most insane pedophile and serial killer ever happened back in France centuries ago. People were actually talking about him at dinner at night. It was used as not a boogeyman, but as a way to the needed to express the fear. I feel that going in a movie theater to watch a scary movie is not necessarily, it's not the same experience of watching the news. It has another purpose sometime, which is it's beyond the entertainment. It's become almost like a psychological tool to face your own monster or your own fear, or something about society that needs to be exercised a little bit. I don't know, maybe that's my, but go, I mean, maybe.
It's the catharsis, it's the expression and the empathy. To put your eyes, when you're in a safe environment, on theater or on a cinema, and you provoke an empathy with the main character, and you live an experience, and you can heal yourself in a way. And I think that's the main goal of cinema, in a way, say to provoke something and to reset yourself. And that's why we need that kind of film. We need to face our demons, our inner demon and the demon of the world. I think it's very, very important, and it has to be a blessing, and we need to protect that very cautiously.
Okay.